Hello everyone, I'm Greg Weaver. Welcome to The Audio Analyst. I've just returned from several days in Aalborg, Denmark, where I was honored and privileged to have been invited to attend the Symphony of Innovation, an event set for February 12th, presented by Audio Group Denmark, the parent umbrella organization for all their high-end related audio brands, Aavik Electronics, Anzus audio cables, power conditioners, and noise-canceling accessories, Access, their more accessible all-in-one products, and Børresen Acoustics loudspeakers. They had organized this event to introduce their two newest flagship products, the Aavik M-880 monoblock amplifier and the Børresen Acoustics M8 Gold Signature loudspeaker to the world. I've been fortunate enough to attend dozens of manufacturer launch events during my 5+ decades of covering this industry. And in my experience, this was easily among, if not the most lavish, well-presented, and impressive such event I've yet attended. I landed in Aalborg mid-afternoon the day before the event to weather much like that in my home here in north-central Indiana, with temperatures in the low 20s Fahrenheit, roughly -4 degrees Celsius. Peter Hansen, Audio Group Denmark's North American sales manager, met several of us coming in on the same flight and took us to our hotel. After checking in to the Pier 5 Hotel, positioned on the mainland shore of the Limfjord, 110 miles long, shallow and narrow, navigable sound that connects the North Sea to the Kattegat, dividing mainland Jutland from the North Jutlandic Island, I was afforded some quality time with many of the Audio Group Denmark's cast of remarkable characters before our group dinner at Struktur, just a few minutes' walk from the hotel. The meal, all 5 courses, and the associated wines were exceptional, easily among the finest I've been served at any similar event. When it was finished, we all walked back to the hotel and, surprisingly, congregated around the bar for nightcaps and more camaraderie and conversation. The grand launch event itself, on Thursday, February 12th, was held at Aalborg's House of Music, a world-class cultural and educational center, also right on the Limfjord waterfront, which opened in 2014. It serves as a combined 1,300-seat concert hall, home to the Aalborg Symphony Orchestra, and an educational hub for the Jutland Conservatory of Music and Aalborg University. The welcome reception, featuring charcuterie-style hors d'oeuvres and champagne, began at 1 p.m. in the lower foyer. The undisputed high point of the event, the unveiling of both the Børresen M8 Gold Signature loudspeakers and the Aavik M-80 amplifiers, began at 1:45 p.m. in the lower concert hall. The presentation featured an introduction by both Lars Christensen, AGD's founder, co-owner, and key executive, a colleague I've known since long before the founding of AGD, as well as Michael Børresen, founder, co-owner, chief technology officer, and primary designer of their products. With Lars and Michael's permission, I recorded the unveiling event, which I am pleased to present here.
Michael, we are so happy to see all you guys. And thank you very much for coming. This is a new era for us. Our company is now 14 years old. And they have been a kind of trip from a small garage company to be more and more industrial. And we have today, 55 people on board in our company. So we have had a nice growth over quite a few years now. what you have in front of you is, in some ways, a kind of revolution. I hope you're able to put a big smile on your face that, holy cow, that's something unusual. So we're going to introduce the new M8, the new top reference of our speakers. And so maybe we should take these devices off so we have a look at them in the real world.
I prefer to undress something else. I don't know if this works. I'm very rarely used to something that needs that much pull.
So these babies are our new M8. And then we also have our new monoblocks, the M-880. And they look like this. So that's what we want to show you today. Michael, I think you should start out to talk about the speakers, the new M8.
Yeah, we basically, before we even started making speakers, this concept was sort of floating around. But at the time when we started the speaker project, the first designs I made were actually made this way, but with 5-inch drivers, and I don't think that 5-inch drivers will be big enough for it. So we reverted to a normal design, so to speak, with traditional cabinets and drivers mounted in front. But what you see here is actually the fruit of many years of moving towards understanding what it is that makes a great loudspeaker and what makes performance possible, especially in the bass region. And last year we premiered and started delivering the bass modules, which were sort of like a test tube for these speakers.
To make these possible.
Yeah, if we did not make the bass modules, we wouldn't know full scale what this would be. So that's when we started doing the final drawings, when we went into prototyping and listening to the first prototypes. Maybe 3 years ago we did that.
Yeah.
And then this was sort of the next logical step for us. And what's so different about this is that normally when you make bass and you make sub-bass and you make subwoofers, you have a small cabinet with a driver in. And in order to get some extension, you need to put some mass on it. And what that does is that you have a room where the speaker is sort of like another room, a small room in a big room. So you pressurize the inside of the cabinet and you pressurize the room. Here you don't pressurize everything, but you put the air in motion. So that means when you're at home in a smaller room, you don't excite all the room notes and the resonances the way you do when you have a sealed chamber or a ported design, where the sub-bass acts like a monopole, pushing air in motion via pressure. So when we saw that was working really well in the smaller scale, we said, now how can we scale this to be a true full range speaker with sublime performance? Along the way, we needed to look into, or we had ideas because we've been working with materials in many places. So we wanted to refine the drivers as well. So we created the Go signature driver, which is 2 mid-ranges in this section and mid-basses, whatever you call it. So we get extraordinary performance out of those drivers. And as a whole, what we have created here is it has taken us to a place where I did not believe we could go. I thought that the current M series was kind of last step in terms of resolution, speed, clarity, but this just that next step. Yeah, there's another next step, which is our monoblock amplifiers. Fleming just stepped in the door. So this design, Fleming has been with us a number of years, but this design has been in the work ever since Fleming started as a part of our design group and a design team. And this is, to me, sort of like paying respect and honoring Fleming's prior designs, where he had an amplifier sort of like the same statue of this, the Colosseum. And then we worked on those lines along the way and put a lot of Aavik on top of that. And so the box work is very much that. And the electronics inside is sort of like a next generation or a topping up of our non-switching Class A designs that we've had for many years, actually. Here we have, in each of these, we have 12 pairs of output transistors, 24 output transistors each channel. We have four 500 watt power supplies. So that means in total we have more than 2 kilowatt power supply. They run at a clock frequency around 400 kilohertz. And that means that they are able to fill up the capacitors in the amplifier 400,000 times a second, meaning that you will never ever get any rail sack. It's so unbelievable how much power you have in this. We measured them to 400 watt each in 8 ohm and 800 watts in 4 ohms, and they just keep doubling. We have measured peak currents in transient more than 100 amps. So this will do well as a welding machine, if needed. What astonished me, and I think you too, is that there's no substitute for power. I think if you have an M4, even in reverse, it has the power to smash a lot of things.
Michael,
That was internal, but it was good.
We take that after, okay?
But there's no substitute for power. So this having enormous power and enormous current capability. So you both have the horsepower and you have the torque at the same time. So it becomes a very potent animal beast of an amplifier. And what really shocked us is that power enables a fully new level of micro detail. There's things in recordings that I have never heard before. And I hope that you will get to experience that as well here today. Vil du sige noget?
Nej. Jeg venter bare.
Yeah. Of course, the full system here is wired up with the very best we have. We have the 880 streamer DAC, and we have the preamp here as well. And these speakers require 2 channels aside, and we use internal electronic discrete crossover, analog crossover in the preamp, meaning that we run a separate power amp for the 2 bass modules and 1 for the mid-range section. This allows us to create and adjust. We get in a big room here, but that allows us to fit the speakers to the room in a very nice way. So please enjoy. I will join Lars. He will go and he will play a little music.
Both these products push the envelope of technology and integration as envisioned by Michael Børresen and the AGD team. So I want to discuss some of that technology here. The M8 Gold Signature loudspeaker is the embodiment, the logical culmination of all the recent development and innovation that Audio Group Denmark has done in the field of loudspeaker and bass module design. Standing 7¼ feet tall, weighing over 700 pounds, the M8 Gold Signature is a 3-module enclosure made of advanced, high-density materials to ensure it is acoustically inert. All 3 stackable modules, 1 lower bass module, a middle mid-treble module, and an upper bass module, are fabricated from dense, multi-layered materials designed for maximum stiffness and rigidity, internal damping, and acoustic neutrality. They are internally braced to maximize minimal mechanical energy transfer with a gently sloped design that further suppresses standing waves. Of course, it features their proprietary ribbon planar 94 tweeter, with its incredibly low moving mass, just 0.01 grams, a rated efficiency of 94 dB, employing neodymium magnets optimized through finite element methods, and it operates from approximately 2.5 kHz on up. Immediately above and below the RP94 are two of the new Børresen iron-free 5 gold signature drivers. Moving beyond their previous copper or silver ring designs, this new driver utilizes a specialized hybrid ring composed of copper, silver, and gold that is then subjected to extended cryogenic treatment to enhance electrical conductivity and structural integrity. This patented motor system is said to reduce voice coil inductance by roughly 12 times that of more conventional iron-based drivers, and by extension is said to eliminate nearly 90% of the typical magnetic flux variations during playback, allowing for more immediate driver response to transients. The drivers are housed in baskets manufactured from titanium to provide high rigidity and damping, again, employing finite element method design to minimize air restriction and interference behind the cone. The diaphragms are comprised of a 3-layer sandwich structure membrane, featuring 2 layers of spread tow carbon fiber on either side of an aramid honeycomb core. And the epoxy resin used to laminate the layers is infused with graphene and boron whiskers to increase rigidity and lower the noise floor without adding significant mass. Their driver assemblies, particularly the baskets and cone structures, are coated with a multi-layer application of titanium, zirconium, hafnium, and their nitrides using vapor deposition to further optimize their mechanical behavior and reduce distortions. Finally, for bass, the M8 employs 12 of the Børresen iron-free 8 gold signature drivers in their folded dipole bass configuration, 6 above and 6 below the central mid-treble unit. If you saw my coverage of the launch of the Børresen BM3 with episode 243 from September of last year, you will likely understand that they were the final piece in the puzzle to allow for the realization of the M8. This dipole loading architecture, with the drivers mounted on an open baffle fitted into a folded open back design, creates sound waves from both its front and back excursion. The result is described as more like an air motion transformer than a typical compression wave launch. Unlike the more conventional parallel crossover networks used, and much like the other current M and T ranges of speakers, the M8 utilizes second-order current diversion crossover networks that are said to actively shape the current paths through the drivers rather than relying solely on voltage domain filtering, instead routing out-of-band current into controlled impedance branches. This is done to minimize reactive energy storage in the drivers, reducing intermodulation artifacts generated by their varying impedance curves. This approach is said to improve phase integrity, resulting in lower distortion and yielding a more linear electromechanical behavior across the crossover region. Their complex crossover system further incorporates a suite of ANZUS technologies, leveraging their active square Tesla coils, analog dithering circuits, and anti-aerial resonance coils to minimize and suppress noise. And the M8 requires biamplification, which brings us to the new Aavik M-80 monoblock amplifier. Each chassis is 31¼ inches tall, 13.5 inches wide, sitting just over 20 inches deep. At nearly 155 pounds each, these are amps you won't be installing or positioning by yourself. Rather than a traditional linear power supply, the M880 employs 4 high-speed, low-noise switching power supplies, each rated at 500 watts at 20 amps. Capable of storing up to 1,050 joules and of delivering peak currents of up to 130 amps. It is said to be able to adapt dynamically to musical demands while maintaining a vanishingly low noise floor. Though not a conventional Class A amplifier, the Aavik M-880 achieves its Class A operation through a reimagined output stage that maintains a consistent, precise, and low-temperature bias of 0.63 volts above the required current, regardless of the signal's instantaneous demand. This approach prevents the output devices from ever switching off, avoiding the extreme heat and inefficiency of traditional, high idle current Class A designs. The result delivers 400 watts into 8 ohms, 800 watts into 4 ohms, and approximately 1,300 watts into 2 ohms, with an exceptionally low output impedance and a damping factor exceeding 1,000 into an 8 ohm load. And because the M8 Gold signature must be biamplified, they use 2 per channel. After the unveiling event, followed by a brief coffee break, at 3:15 p.m., we were treated to an hour-and-a-half's long music demonstration, still in that lower concert hall. The sound was extraordinary, and I will have considerably more to say on that matter in my follow-up episode covering the events of Friday, February 13th. But following a short press and Q&A session, we retired to the upper foyer on the 3rd floor of the House of Music for another splendid multi-course meal, prepared by the House of Music's on-site restaurant Fauna. After this remarkable meal, we moved into the concert hall, taking our seats in the upper mezzanine for a stirring performance from the Aalborg Symphony Orchestra. I attended a Mozart Debussy event at the House of Music when I visited in 2023, and I knew we were in for a treat. The evening opened with the rather obscure Die Seejungfrau, The Little Mermaid, from Alexander von Zemlinsky, and after a short intermission, we heard the pastoral, warm, rather lyrical Symphony No. 2, Opus 73, by Johannes Brahms. After the concert, most of us made it back to the Pier 5 Hotel, where we all congregated at the hotel's bar for more camaraderie. And again, I stayed up way too late. Well, that concludes my coverage of the Symphony of Innovation launch event. And let me add, this was one exceptional launch event in scale and scope. I hope you all have the opportunity to experience these exceptional products that push the boundaries of limitation to realize an exceptionally refined level of high-performance music production today. All pricing and technical information on these products may be found in today's description section. As mentioned, my next episode on this trip will present coverage of Friday's event, a follow-up tour of the AGD factory, and my take on how these new flagship products sounded as they were set up and ready to listen to in the Supreme Suite at the AGD factory. Spoiler alert, it was damned impressive. As always, thank you for taking the time to drop by today. Further information on supporting the channel and my efforts may be found in today's description section or at my companion website, theaudioanalyst.com. Please stay safe and keep the music playing. Till next time, cheers.